Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, and this is your Cannabis Business Podcast. Today, we are here live at the Green Lady Marijuana Shop here in Olympia, Washington, the state's capital, where we are hosting a town hall meeting on marijuana lounges to overturn a Class C felony in Washington state on having social use venues and consumption lounges. On the phone with us is Dan Chemist to help us go through some ways that retail shops can grow their business, and then 34 lessons in the art of retail. Dan Chemist, our CBD correspondent, is on the line with good CBD products. Welcome back.
Hey, how are you today? You're down in Olympia hanging out at the Green Lady. We love that chronic.
State capital, yes. I am sitting here drinking my CBD espresso. I've got some CBD water and some CBD tincture. I'm all CBD'd out. $5 for this CBD. Try and get that in there. The CBD living water. Got my coffee, obviously. And then I like this 20-1 by our friends over at Green Revolution in Paulsville, Washington. It's a 20-1 CBD to THC ratio, an AM version. Obviously, I don't want a PM during the day. So this is a sativa-esque effect, daytime. 20-1 CBD to THC ratio, all here at Green Lady.
How much CBD are you on right now, brother?
Candidly, I stacked yesterday. So I took probably 3 doses throughout the day yesterday, stacking CBD for today. I am a finance guy. I love numbers. People, on the other hand, make me nervous. And so when I do public speaking events, which I'm doing today at the town hall in front of senators and state reps and the community and my own, coworkers, if you will, within the Alliance. The Cannabis Alliance is a lobbyist group. And so I want to be on point. I want to be professional. I want to be ahead of the game. And so CBD is helping me to stay calm, relaxed, and professional.
I dig it very much. And then I know you've got a lot of background noise there. We really appreciate you, hosting the cast there for today, live in the field. It's never easy. You know that.
It's not. I actually wanted to cancel today, but here we are. We're doing it anyways, as lively as it is. Figure that with the town hall, it's important to kind of get out some messages, and being at Green Lady Rec Shop has got us on the mind of how retail businesses survive, how they grow, and all that good stuff. So jumping right in today's topic about streamlining operations, determining the best growth strategy. This article is brought by Marijuana Venture Magazine. And so they're asking, are you considering a multi-store launch? Are you opening additional locations? Are you testing a new retail concept? Or are you launching a robust e-commerce site? And so all of these things obviously have a forward path that you need to write down, business plans. We talked about mission and vision statements to help you kind of forge your path and how to live through that volatility and adversity and not run out of cash.
It's paint by numbers. You can actually go get these plans. So it's interesting when you go out in the field and you run across somebody who's trying to make a go, who doesn't have or hasn't gotten the plans yet, right? And yet they're still trying to make it go. I mean, I appreciate gumption, but at the same time, the internet, a powerful tool, right?
Absolutely. And so what we're seeing here is the 4 ways that retail businesses grow is broken down into this quadrant where it presents retail operations and then new retail concepts, either at present customer base or a new mix of customers. And so initially you have a market penetration, and then you have a concept development, which moves into market development, and then diversification. I would probably add on to that, to diversify is just adding an experience. You can try and diversify your product, but if you're not offering a unique experience, you're not going to get customers to come back. We've seen plenty of products, for example, me and you, where we've done some research and we've seen a huge push for something that's new, neat, niche, and it has a lot of initial sales. Very, very few come back a second time, and nobody comes back a third time. So obviously, if you want to brand and you want to be successful, you need repeat sales, and that's going to be more than diversification. You need a unique experience to keep them coming back.
Yeah, it's funny, the data on the ground, right? And what it means to go see something where, a lot of people will project things. You're right. I was thinking about that particular piece of technology I was working with. A wonderful piece of technology. And you'd look at it and you'd say to yourself, well, this has got to be a surefire hit. And, well, actually, no. a lot of energy to find out that no, it wasn't. And a whole lot of people essentially projecting, geez, that looks neat, it's going to be neat. Right. Well, looks neat's different than is neat. From a marketing perspective, one of the things that is amazing about this space is in the end, you do come back to some very tried and true products, right? Tinctures, flour, pre-rolls. Again, new things are hard to find. New things are really hard to find in this space that are actually cool.
Yes, I think a lot of that has to do with the lack of capital in the industry. We've seen very few innovations because of the lack of available money floating around the industry, but a lot of that is going to change. But let's unpack this a little bit. These four groups that Marijuana Venture lays out for us, with the growth mode number one being penetration. So the article goes on to say that when you take your present retail concept and merchandise mix and roll it out to similar types of customers by opening more than one location or venue, you're growing by market penetration. So the focus is on replicating your store concept or format and making your online retail operations scalable. The caution they throw out is opening additional stores in another town or launching an e-commerce website may be part of a market development growth strategy, because the customer across town and the online shoppers can be very different from the customers served from your present storefront. So it's all about location and expanding. Multi-state operators is the number one investment vehicle in the country right now, or even in North America. And yet there is caution to the wind looking at MedMen and the dip in their stock for some maybe, I don't know. There's a lot of things on why MedMen stock has gone down from misinformation. But in terms of the concept of market penetration, they've done a great job. Having the right concept and development and process helps to get that end result. And so with growth mode number two, growth by concept development, article goes on to say that with concept development, the focus is to change the merchandise mix or add to it with categories that are logical extensions for existing types of consumers. So this can have a major impact on your balance sheet as you add inventory. We've seen with Headset that you have 70-ish% profit margins if you have 15 or more SKUs, and then more than 60% are not profitable if you have less than 15 products. And so the impacts will ripple through your profit and loss statement as well. So while vendors may seem very generous with funds or training for your staff and advertising new product lines, beware of the hidden costs of overbuying.
Yeah, and recognizing that when somebody's at the counter, them buying one more thing. Hey, can I get some papers? Hey, geez, I'm going to grab a pre-roll, right? Getting them to grab one more thing is really, in a lot of cases, that's the difference between winning and losing, right?
Right. And we haven't seen a lot of companies win big. The simplest thing is just to be the Bill Gates or the Steve Jobs of cannabis. If you're going to be Steve Jobs and create something that nobody thought they needed, that's going to be the game changer, but that's going to take a lot of capital. And so in order to develop that, it's going to require a lot of team players, big management, and a lot of implementation and development. A lot of the things that we've done with market development over the last 5 years in cannabis has become obsolete as the market has moved, and you have to stay relevant. You have to keep pivoting. You have to keep being in the business and know how it's going to move. Otherwise, that market development is going to pass you by. So the article goes on to say that there are many market penetration growth plans that end up turning into growth by market development. And so as we mentioned earlier, the customers across town or online shoppers can be very different from the customers served from your present storefront. So this is where customers' psychographics change. And so is your retail concept appropriate for college towns, or is it country or hip and urban? It's important to follow the customer. And again, if you can even lead the customer into a product or service that they're unaware of. Otherwise, if you're waiting for them to want CBD, that'll never happen because they don't know what it is. CBG, CBN, THCV, you name it. Rare cannabinoids are not going to be something that customers go out and look for. You have to present it to them and entice them to want it.
Hey, Karan, it's funny you should mention. So I was at a garden party last night, right? A kind of a neighborhood party. And I was stunned. I carried in a bunch of CBD samples with me, figuring that based on what I see in the market daily, because I am the field correspondent for the Talking Hedge and I'm out on my big trip and all of this, I figured I would be the popular guy with all the CBD. I was kind of shunned. I had 2 people out of 14 people, I had 2 accept samples. Okay. I had 12 say, yeah, what's that? No, thank you. No. And I was like, what? This does not correlate with what you see out there. And again, the nature of selling something to those new customers, because that's, again, when you're growing your business, finding new customers, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. I'll just kind of throw a little 2 cents in my own efforts of walking around a local farmer's market in Burien. And I went to a honey farm, I guess is that what you call it? A company that sells honey, and asked them if they were going to be offering CBD products, and was kind of intrigued, but very, very turned off by an interaction that he had with another company. It's somebody that I know of, and they are involved in the CBD honey game, and not professional, not somebody that I want to work with. In fact, I won't even talk to this individual. There's very few people that I refuse to talk to, and this individual is one of those, and had made some weird comments towards this company, and so that turned them off. They didn't even want to deal with me, assuming that we were either affiliated, or that's maybe how the CBD game works, on intimidating and telling people you have to do business with me, and this is how your bees are going to be trained and handled. And so there's a lot of weird things out there, individuals and products and otherwise. We're just going to have to all kind of collectively get through this crazy, chaotic time.
In the end, it's, this is the thing that keeps ringing true about this business. And for instance, this article, right? These are all axiomatic, classic sales bits, right? Don't do business with goofy people. Sell more stuff at the counter. Get more clients into the store, right? Have a better brand. Again, these are not things that are like unique to the cannabis space. These are things that are typical of all sales spaces, really.
Right. And another one that's very typical is just growth by diversification. So that's taking a new or revised merchandise mix out to a new type of customer segment. That's essentially a new retail startup. So introducing a fresh concept to a market is an exciting opportunity, but often there's retail organizations that end up diversification without intending to actually be there. So for instance, when a retailer puts merchandise on their website, they intend to simply provide another way for customers to shop. But in fact, the folks who shop on the web frequently are very different from those who prefer to come into the stores. So now they've slipped into the market development and needing to deal with a new kind of customer. And those new kinds of customers may want different products too, meaning these retailers now have to land in a diversification mode with new products and merchandise mix. So again, just offering different types of diversification may not lead to improved revenues unless you're getting repeat business. Because as we've seen, diversification isn't just the end result for repeat sales. You may get one, but unless you have something that the customers want to come back to by offering a unique experience, then your product or brand isn't going to have that second or third customer come back to. A lot of the store's success is dependent upon the customers as well as customer service. And so that old 80-20 rule of thumb, where 80% of the volume is generated by 20% of the customers, you're going to need to probably treat them a little bit differently. And so some of the situations that you've encountered over the years and visiting over 1,500 stores, some are good, some are bad. But you don't really know who's going to be the 80%. So treating everybody equally, I think, is really important. We've seen good customer service. We've seen terrible ones. And that's going to really kind of weed out some of these businesses.
Customers are hard to come by, and keeping them, keeping your customers, right? Again, these are bedrock business principles, right? And ultimately, having me come back to you time after time and give you my money is the most efficient kind of customer you can have, and doing whatever you need to do to make those kind of customers is the smartest thing you can do.
Exactly. So this article has 34 points, and we're not going to go through all of them, but just to touch on a few, like you mentioned, is treat your customers as the value assets that they are, and doing a poor job of developing employees' potential can result in a high turnover rate, along with a general lack of motivation and low customer sales. And then music is a great way to create an inviting atmosphere, unless you're trying to do a podcast. And then the time to do markdowns is just before the sales peak, not after. And so all of those things will help with your retail sales and your customer service, your loyalty programs, repeat businesses, and helping that 80-20 rule stay in effect. With investors and lenders are hesitant to deal with retailers who can't initiate a working knowledge on paper of their cash flow, so the owners generally haven't prepared and used a cash flow budget, which is a plan for forecasting cash balances, cash receipts, cash disbursements. So keeping your investors happy is important for retail shops. So number 8 on the list is that your first-time customers have no idea what to expect when they walk into the door. They aren't familiar with their products. Number 9 is that your customers will naturally gravitate towards new merchandise. We're always looking for new, neat, niche things, right? Your gross margin, return on inventory investment is important. And so you can use technology that gives you granular data on your inventory control so that you can find out which neighborhoods have flavor preferences. It's really important to use like headset market reports. There's a lot of retail providers that have special services but fail to communicate to this to their customers. So if you have extra services, make sure that they know about it. Make signs, mention it on your advertising or social media. And here's a dismal statistic. Last year in the US alone, on average, one retail business failed every 12 minutes. That's 5 failures per hour, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So keep this in mind. More than 1/3 of the retail businesses that fail are actually profitable. So they simply run out of cash when their creditors have run out of patience. And, maybe if customer service is a bad thing, then training programs can be a motivator. Budgeting, of course, can maybe help you pay a little bit more to those people so that they can enjoy their work a little bit better. And studies have shown that 20% of customers are true price hounds and will chase down the lowest price. The other 80% care about price, but also taking into consideration what else the store has to offer. And so obviously the quicker your merchandise hits the floor, the quicker it'll move. And then consider expenses that you incur due to purchasing or holding and selling merchandise in your business. Every penny counts, right? That's why we always talk about Puerto Rico as a place to go with a 4% corporate tax cap. If there's any R&D that you can do down there to take advantage of that, that's going to help these businesses survive. Even if you're operating in another state, having an entity down there for a bilingual call service or research and development or otherwise is going to be a benefit.
Now, from the strategic saving, right, going to Puerto Rico, down to the tactical saving, showing up at the trade show and setting up your booth yourself, or getting in early enough to avoid, having to pay the parking fee and those kinds of things. What's funny about small biz that wants to be big biz is that there's places for whatever you save all the time. So, certainly you got to be smart. Sometimes it's not the time to save, right? Sometimes it's the time to go. But the only way you have bread for those times is to have saved. And man, judging when and where, that is the real trick with all this stuff. You feel like it's time to go all the time. Next thing you know, you burn through all your cash. You got to be smart.
Right. And you could spend a lot of money, $50,000 on, branding, for example. And so your graphics and signage shouldn't detract from, what you're trying to get the message out there. It should be obvious what type of customers you're trying to attract. You should give emotional and qualitative rewards for the frequently highest ranked employees. And also for customers, it's essential for the merchandise to be organized and displays from manufacturers to be convenient and not flipped around so that they don't see it. A lot of bud tenders will flip the packaging around so they can see the THC percentage when the brand and name and everything is hidden. And so all of those things obviously are blunders in a new industry that need to be fixed. So Marijuana Ventures 34 Lessons in the Art of Retail continue to go on to talk about conducting an effective sales analysis can be very revealing. We've seen that when we analyze sales approaches and statistics. Looking at sales from a variety of productivity measures can provide new insights. So consider that information, such as the total sales volume or total number of transactions, the volume of transactions by category and items per transactions, or just leave it up to nerds like us on the Talking Hedge to dissect it for you, because we love doing that stuff. So if you want your employees to grow with business, train them carefully, watch customer traffic patterns for a couple of days like you do, Dan. You sit out there, you see who's going in, who's doing what. And so if you find one section of your store being visited more frequently than others, then do some rearranging. Shift your high draw merchandise to another part of the store and so on. And just Kaizen, constant improvement for the better. That's a Japanese philosophy of just keep changing, keep analyzing, keep reflecting, and keep trying to make things better.
Right? Informed choices, right? In the end, it isn't make change for change's sake. It is, use your analytical process a little bit, because here's the thing. We can always get better at everything we do. We can always get better.
So it's obviously important to focus on your product selection and your customer needs. If your store name itself doesn't identify your retail segment, considering adding a tagline. And so we live in an age when it's really no excuse for retailer owners to operate without a program of regular training and development for their employees. They need to just keep up with the information. There's a lot of stuff out there. I've had bud tenders talk to me about the energetic effects of an indica, which is actually a PM version. It's a nighttime version. It's couch. It's not euphoric, uplifting, energetic. And so making sure that all that information is accurate, up to date is really important. Customer service, obviously, that's your go-to. So you're paying these people $15 an hour, typically, minimum wage, and they're the front lines. Those bud tenders, just like our podcast a couple of weeks ago at the World Trade Center on bud tending, we talked about the importance. They are the integral part, the difference between bankruptcy and billions. And so if you want to be a successful retail shop, then respect the bud tender.
Well, I like that tagline thing. Can I try one? You ready?
Yes.
The Talking Hedge, your cannabis industry podcast.
Ooh, I like that. You know what I like even better? The Talking Hedge, cannabis business podcast. And with that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is The Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Or don't. And I'm out.